Water. Everything on this planet needs water to survive, and your garden is no exception. And rainwater is much better than tap water, so it's not created equal. We have to worry about chlorine and chloramine and things like that, so I prefer to collect my own rainwater. Now, in today's episode, I'm going to take you around my whole garden and show you my 5,500 gallon containment and water capture system and how I move that around the garden for my use to be able to water my plants. So stay tuned. I'm Tony O'Neill and this is Simplified Gardening. Okay, so before we go on, I'm going to show you an aerial shot of the garden, and I'm doing this for two reasons. And the first of those reasons is so that you can see exactly where I am within the garden and where the systems are. And the second reason is it will allow me to highlight the actual containment we're talking about at that specific time. Now, all of my water capture and containment is in these. These are IBC containers, otherwise known as intermediate bulk containers. And I've bought all these second-hand off marketplace, and we have a total of 21 of them. There is one that is just to the right of me for the poultry, but I'm not going to take you to see that one for the very fact that I had a bit of carnage night before last and a fox got in and absolutely wiped out my chickens, so I've got to make some work there before I bring any new poultry back into the garden. So I digress a little bit, but anyway, as you can see here, we have 6 IBCs. They are 250 gallons each, or 1,000 litres depending on where you are in the world, and they all are linked except for this end one. And what happens is the rain comes down off this roof, it comes into this guttering system, and it's all channeled directly into this center one here. Now you may see that gutter is very, very low on the roof, and that's because we've recently replaced that roof, and I'll put a link to that video in the description below. But so we need to alter that, but what it does, it directs all the water off this roof into a single IBC, which is then shared between these 5. They're all linked from the taps at the bottom, and there's a single pipe work that links them all. This one here has the top cut out so that if I want to, I can drop in a watering can, and this watering can will make life much easier for me. So all the water drops into here and it's spread between the 5, and on the back of this there is a piece of 1.5 inch PVC pipework that runs down out of here and down the path to the next area. And we use a 3,500 gallon bilge pump, exactly like this one, that connects up to that, and I can send water to other areas of the garden, which we will speak about in a moment. The next thing you need to understand for this as well is we also run a pump like this from this end. Now this is a Bosch battery operated pump, and I run 5 amp hour batteries in them, and this links up to this area here, which is the potato growing area, and it does all the automatic watering. Pump there has some pipework that comes along to this area here, which is the potato growing area. And as you can see, this is where the 70 containers of potatoes are grown, just in this span down towards where you are. And that's pretty much it for these ones. So we collect a lot of water off this shed, and we're able to send it anywhere in the garden that we desire using those bilge pumps. All the pumps I'm using are 12 volts. So the Bosch has its own battery. These we run off PowerFlow power bank, and it's just easy to just stick them into a cigarette lighter and it will pump one of those IBCs out within about 6 minutes. It's really, really efficient at moving water. Now, that pipe work continues and it comes down this path, and it actually goes straight down to the new polytunnel. I'm saying new, it's been there for a couple of years now, but it actually ends up down there. And that pipe work from the back of these allows me to connect those IBCs to these ones. Okay, this area here, we have a bank of 4 IBCs. Again, as you'll see across the bottom, these two are connected and these two are connected. And if we need to, we have another pump in here. This is a smaller version, and this one does 1,100 gallons an hour. And that goes down to the taps in the garden. Sorry about the noise there. But these two IBCs and these two IBCs collect water off the polytunnel and off the shed. So the idea is you build your structures within the garden where you want them, and then you collect the water that you need. Now, these two themselves are not connected to anything. They are just connected to each other. And what I use these two for is filling up these two or sending water elsewhere. There is a pipe that runs underground and does connect with some of the other down the bottom, but they're not actually physically connected. Okay, so this then has another one of them Bosch pumps that comes down, is plumbed in here, and I can simply just press a button, and here I have an extractable hose reel if I need it, and we can just press water for watering all the seedlings and stuff, and it's perfect for that. And it just totally retracts out of the way. It really makes watering in here. Now, what happens later, excuse this mess, I just haven't cleaned up here. Underneath here, we have another pump that comes from that bank there, and these actually control all of the drip irrigation that gets laid down in here later on in the year. So once I've cleared out all the seedlings and got the mess tidied up in here, and I've got plants out this year, it'll be growing my cucumbers and things like that. So that pump then takes over, and I only use this then as supplement. But this is here for this time of year when, as you can see, we have an absolute ton of seedlings that require going out. So, you know, it just makes life much easier. So I've got 2 systems off those IBCs. The rainfall actually sends them in there, and I'm able to water via a hose or via drip irrigation. Remember the black pipe at the back of the 6 IBCs that we spoke about up in the garden? That comes down this path, and it comes up here across, and it fills this IBC, which is also linked with an IBC that is behind that plant that is over here. So we have 2, again, black IBCs here, and they are linked underground, and it allows me to just fill this one, and it automatically fills both of them, and they're linked to the 6 that's behind there. This structure doesn't have any water catchment on it at the moment, but it's not to say I won't put it on there. But the 3 big structures we have here catching water is more than enough to be able to keep them all full, as well as other ones around the garden. Okay, so as you can see, here's the second one, and the pipe work down on the ground goes underneath the patio and comes up and links to this one. This is exactly the same, another one of those Bosch pumps. I've just got a bucket over the top of it. I haven't got a hose on there. I've got one here that I'm using at the moment for watering. It doesn't stay in there, of course, I take it home with me. But again, if I want to water, I can literally just water everything I want to out of the 2 IBCs, so it's ideal for the well-being garden. Just turn it off when I'm finished. And again, this was detached because it doesn't stay here. I don't want anybody stealing it. So for now, that's up there. So that's the 2 IBCs, which looks after this area of the garden, but also it's a place they collect water to be able to feed into the tunnel, and that's where we're going next. So this here is another 1,000 litres or 250 gallons of water. It's raised up on a couple of pallets just to give it a little bit of height. And this is where we manage the drip irrigation that we will lay in this tunnel from. We have a small pump here which we can link up if we need to anything. We've also got a bigger pump, another 3,500 gallon one here that we will move water around with. And basically what we do in the summer is this is linked up to all drip in here, so the tunnel gets watered automatically. And we also have another IBC down here, and this one has its top cut off again, and this allows us, if we need to just drop in a watering can, and we can manually water anything that we think needs a little bit more water than everything else. Because the one thing about drip irrigation is that you can use valves in order to control specific flows, but if most of the tunnel needs the same, it's easy to just put out a system that deals with that, and then if you need to every now and then just top up with a watering can. So that's the two in here. So we are now just in front of the shed where we have 3 gardens and a brassica cage behind us. We have an IBC here. Again, all these IBCs outside have the roofs cut out of them, so we can dip a watering can in them if we want to. The other thing that you will see is there is some blue pipe here. Now, in an emergency, say we had a really hot summer and I did run out of water, there is taps out on the main road that's out there, and I can use those taps if I need to. Those taps, I can connect a hose and that comes out through here, so I can fill this one with water at a push if we had a really long dry spell and I used up all the water. Now last year we had 18,000 litres, or around about 4,500 gallons of water last year, and I ran out. So this year we've extended that. Also, there's another hose that runs up to those black ones so that I can ship water up there if I need to for the tunnels and things. And there's a hose that runs down to an IBC that's further down the garden that we will see in a moment. It's very warm today. It's like 22 degrees, and it's amazing because the weather has just changed just like that. Okay, here we have another IBC. Now, they've been placed in the garden so that that IBC looks after these 3 beds and the flower bed that is behind you in front of the shed. We have another IBC that we'll look at in a moment that deals with that area. This IBC deals with this 3 beds and the rhubarb here. So again, as you can see, all water. So this is another new IBC that we have. Again, it's open, and this IBC will feed these beds, the 2 asparagus beds, the 2 raised beds, the herb bed, and this new flower bed that's been put in. And again, this IBC is actually linked to the 4 that were up by the polytunnel that we saw, as are all of these taps. Down this side of the garden, you will see 1, 2, 3, 4, there's 5 taps. They're brass fitted taps, and we can connect a hose up to them if we want to. And that small little 1,100 gallon pump that we saw me pull out, that is actually what powers this system. So we have water taps right through this side of the garden, so we can connect a hose if we require. Okay, so we're now on the beds that are just in front of the rhubarb there. And we have another IBC here, again open topped, full of water, and this one is linked to one that is over there via this black pipe. I literally just drop one of those 1,100 gallons, connect it up, and I can ship water to that as well. The idea with all these little pipes is they are buried in the ground, they're out of my way. I'm not dragging hose, breaking plants to try and fill up these containers. So all I've got to do is move one of the pumps across, plug it in, and send water from one to the other. We are now back in the central part of the garden, just in front of the brassica cage. There are 3 beds where you're standing. We have a bean bed here with some trees, and again, another water container here with the black pipe coming up just here. So we can send, this is the one that sends water to the last one we were just talking about. And the last of the IBCs is this one here, and this is the 21st IBC. There's a tap that's just over the back there, so if we wanted to fill it just from a tap, great, we can just drop it down. It's actually not connected to any of the others because just there, the last one we were looking at is literally about 12 feet. I can just run a piece of hose along the side of the cherry trees and just drop it in here without the risk of damaging any plants. And but that one again, if you look at it, it's just a top cut off so we can put in a watering can and what have you. It's also very good if we want to be able to water the compost that we are making. You know, so it's nice and handy to have these there. So that's my 5,500 gallon water catchment and containment for my garden. And as we've seen, these containers are split around the garden so that each IBC looks after just 3 or 4 beds. That way I am not walking far to water. In such a large garden you need to really limit that. But also, I'm not struggling. If one of them runs out of water, I just drop a pump into another and I ship that water across. It's really that easy to do. And it allows me, no matter where I am in the garden, I have access to water within about 10 or 12 feet. That really does speed up the watering process in the summer. Setting the tunnels so that they're on drip irrigation also makes life a lot easier, and when I'm just growing the seedlings we have the access with that hose pipe if we need it as well, and the little sprinkler on that. So that's really the system, guys. The only one you haven't really seen is the one on the back of the poultry cage. I'll show you that in the actual map, but like I said, the reason for that at the moment, there's feathers and all sorts of stuff everywhere, so unfortunately I need to do a bit of burying work to make sure that the foxes can't ever get in there again. I thought I'd done it with wrapping the cage in wire, but it wasn't enough. They actually tore through the wire, so we're going to be using a stronger gauge for that. Anyway folks, I hope you've enjoyed this little look around to see exactly how I'm storing all this water, how I'm collecting it, because like I said, rainwater is much better than tap water. So if you can use it, I'm collecting 5,500 gallons to use in the garden, and when it rains that just automatically fills up and I just ship it out to whatever IBC is running low. There's a couple of them like the one behind you, it's probably about a fifth empty, so I can ship to that, and the next time it rains it'll just recoup in the others. Oh, just a quick announcement as well before you go on. If you're going to be at the Malvern Spring Show this coming Sunday, the 12th of May, then make sure you look out for me. I'll be there with loads of other creators, and I'll sign any of your books if you've purchased them. Links, by the way, will be in the description below. And if you want to see how I put that new roof on that shed so we can catch all our water, then this is the next video that you should watch. I'm Tony O'Neill and this is Simplified Gardening. I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.